Northwest News Week. A man charged in a double homicide at a trailer park in Fort Frances won't be sent to jail for the crimes due to a mental illness. 38-year-old Tyler John Cousineau was charged in March of 2017 with 2 counts of second-degree murder. The victims were 77-year-old Lovern Affleck and his wife, 66-year-old Carol Affleck. Cousineau lived in a mobile home across from the couple. Crown Attorney Andrew Sadler says a psychiatric report found him to be clearly mentally disturbed both before and after his arrest. Sadler and defense lawyer George Joseph presented a joint submission recommending Cousineau be found not criminally responsible. The judge agreed but designated Cousineau as a high-risk accused. For now, he'll be held in custody in the Forensic Mental Health Unit at the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital. If the Ontario Review Board wishes to change his status in the future, it will have to get approval from the Superior Court of Justice. 2 people were killed on Highway 105 near Red Lake last Sunday after their pickup truck went off the road. The vehicle hit 2 boulders and a tree and then burst into flames. OPP says the driver of another vehicle tried to help but couldn't get the occupants out because of the heavy damage to the vehicle. The identity of the 2 victims will be released once next of kin are notified. Towns and cities across the province marked Treaty Recognition Week to recognize the agreements made between First Nations and the Crown and educate the next generation about the critical role those treaties played in the creation of Canada. Students at Beaver Brae High School in Kenora learned more from a pair of special guests. Adam Riley reports.
It's a treaty that is almost as old as Canada itself. Treaty 3, which spans from the Manitoba border to just west of Thunder Bay and from the U.S.-Canadian border to just north of Sioux Lookout, is one of the more successful treaties ever created and has been used by others as a model. Students at Beaver Brae High School in Kenora were able to hear from the leaders in the Indigenous community, including Grand Council Treaty No. 3 Chief Francis Kavanagh, who says it's imperative students know and understand the region's history.
The real history. You know, for me, growing up, you know, we were called savages and this and that we were always the bad guys, you know, we did massacres and this and that. That was not the case, you know, it was, we welcomed newcomers into the territory. It was us that helped them survive the tough environment.
Students also got to hear from Kenora Rainy River MPP and Minister of Indigenous Affairs, Greg Rickford, who praises the efforts of the Keewatin-Patricia District School Board to work in partnership with Treaty 3.
I just think it's awesome, and a shout out to the school board here for, as I said earlier, making sure that through ceremony, through educational activities, interactive activities, or a combination thereof, to help do our part to celebrate and raise awareness around Treaty Recognition Week.
58% of the student population at Beaver Brae is Indigenous, and Principal Tracy Benoit echoes Kavanagh on the critical nature that Treaty Recognition Week plays.
I know that some kids are going to go to the interactive map. They're going to be asking their teachers about it. And our teachers had a lot of resources this week as well available to implement in their classrooms. So open dialogue and sharing.
Adam Riley, TBT News.
The twinning of 40 kilometers of highway between Kenora and the Manitoba border could be underway as soon as next year. That's according to Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford. He says the province is in renewed talks with area First Nations, something he claims the previous government and the region's federal representative failed to properly do. His statements also come on the heels of an announcement by the Ministry of Transportation of an information session in Kenora on November 20th regarding a 6.5-kilometer stretch of highway from the border to Highway 673. Rickford says the project is a major priority of his.
Kenora and the region beyond wants a twinned highway. It represents not just an economic opportunity that's open for business, it's probably one of the single biggest, most important safety factors for our region when you look at that particular stretch of highway. So in addition to the work that we're currently doing all along the highway here through Ignace and Dryden and down in Rainy River, we'd like to get that project started.
Rickford, however, did not mention if moving forward on the Kenora Highway would in any way affect efforts to twin the highway between Thunder Bay and Nipigon. In an email from the Ministry of Transportation, a spokesperson says the province is assessing its priorities and couldn't confirm if the Thunder Bay project was on the list. Over a 24-hour span, Dryden OPP arrested 5 people while executing search warrants at 2 separate residences. The first was carried out on Tuesday. Officers seized 284 grams of methamphetamine with a street value of $56,000, along with drug trafficking materials and an undisclosed amount of cash. 3 Dryden residents, aged 24 to 41, were arrested. Then the next day, officers raided a second home. There they found 31 grams of methamphetamine, drug trafficking equipment, cash, and a prohibited weapon. A 39-year-old Dryden man and a 29-year-old Wabigoon woman were arrested. A video shot near the Northwestern Health Unit in Kenora showing piles of used needles on the ground has gone viral on Facebook. It shows what appears to be dozens of used needles and garbage in the backyard of a building nearby. Health Unit spokesperson Jillian Lunny says the site has since been cleaned up and a barricade has been placed around the building to deter drug users. The Health Unit does provide needles to help prevent the spread of blood-borne diseases. The facility is also home to an emergency shelter. Lunny encourages residents to contact the Health Unit if they come across any discarded needles.
The person who did the video did not let us know that there were needles on the ground, and one of our key messages to people is that if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. So I couldn't say for sure when the video was posted, but within probably 3 to 5 minutes of me finding out about it from staff, I was able to get staff outside, and we had it cleaned up in probably 5 or 10 minutes.
Lunny adds the Health Unit does have several disposal bins placed throughout the community. She notes there's also an outreach van that last year collected and returned 3 needles for every 1 that was given out. Canadian tobacco opponents have set a national goal of reducing usage to 5% by 2035. But that goal will be a big challenge here in the Northwest as we have a higher percentage of smokers. That's why the Regional Tobacco Control Network brought in an expert this week with ideas on how to make it easier for people to quit. Alana Pickrell reports.
The Northwest Tobacco Control Area Network held the Tobacco Knowledge Exchange Forum to give healthcare workers the opportunity to learn up-to-date information about tobacco use in Canada and the goals moving forward. The keynote speaker was Rob Cunningham, the Senior Policy Analyst at the Canadian Cancer Society. He says Thunder Bay is just not up to par with the rest of the country right now with its anti-smoking bylaws.
Thunder Bay is behind some other municipalities in a couple of areas in terms of outdoor smoking bylaws, which should include e-cigarettes, should include cannabis, should include other outdoor areas. In terms of all local parks, a greater distance from doors, 9 meters instead of 3. That's not yet been done. Thunder Bay has not required tobacco retailers to have a license.
Currently, Ontario has lower tobacco taxes than every other province in Canada except for Quebec, and Thunder Bay doesn't even have annual license fees. Northwest Tobacco Control Network Coordinator Dan Deputer says even though there are other habits coming to the surface like cannabis and vaping, tobacco is still an issue that needs attention and reduction in Canada.
One of the things that we have to do is not assume that people don't want to quit. That's one of the mistakes I think that a lot of people make, is that they have too much on their plates already. We think about people who already have other poor health outcomes, or they're dealing with so much in their lives that we don't want to take away, say, maybe smoking is the one pleasure that we assume that they have left.
Cunningham adds the progress seen so far regarding tobacco use is huge. Since 1999, youth smoking has declined from 28% to 5% in 2017, and 80 universities and colleges in Canada have gone completely smoke-free. Overall, he strongly believes their 2035 goal is realistic.
If we were to do everything that we know that is available to be done in the next few years, and we kept it in place and implemented additional innovative measures, it is achievable. Now, you will have some areas that will be a little higher than 5%, and some places a little lower, but as a country, it is absolutely achievable.
The Tobacco Knowledge Exchange Forum was the first step in bringing people together and making sure that everyone is on the same page. But there is still a lot of work that needs to be done in the next 16 years if Northwestern Ontario doesn't want to get left behind. Alana Pickrell, TBT News.
Ontario Provincial Police have released details of a traffic stop that led to the seizure of a large quantity of illicit cigarettes. It came after officers pulled over a vehicle last Sunday evening on Highway 17 near Ignace. Inside, they found 75,000 unmarked cigarettes worth an estimated $44,000. 2 Manitoba men have been charged under the Tobacco Tax Act. Well, coming up next, Atikokan's Native Friendship Centre is about to undergo some major renovations. Stay tuned. It's been a rough summer for the Atikokan Native Friendship Centre after an angry blast from Mother Nature forced the building to close for repairs. But as Adam Riley reports, the temporary closure has proven to be a blessing in disguise.
It was definitely a huge impact on us operationally. We essentially had half a day to pack up and move out.
A midsummer rainstorm earlier this year in Atikokan hit the town's Native Friendship Centre like a bomb, causing thousands of dollars in flood damage to the building on Main Street, forcing operations, staff, and the center's programming to be scattered across the small community. While it has been stressful, it's not all bad news, according to Executive Director Sarah Larich, as the insurance will cover the damage done to the main floor.
They're actually ordering everything right now and getting ready to start those repairs, so we've jumped our insurance approvals. The second part is next year we were slated for capital renovations on the main floor to deal with our too small kitchen and bathrooms and doing accessibility accommodations. So now we actually have an extra $60,000 of repairs that makes sense to do right now when we're off location.
Larich says the ANFC has already begun fundraising for the $60,000 required. Once the repairs and renovations are completed, all but one of the current off-site locations will be recalled back into the main building. The fourth site, a small store, will remain open as part of the center's expansion.
We were already talking about doing this, so at the same time that the flood hit, even though it was difficult with capacity and kind of hands on board, it made sense for us to go ahead. We actually had a small version of the store in our old site, so this is essentially an expansion and properly testing it.
The store will sell art and produce from local producers, in addition to being the headquarters for a Good Food Box program, and is slated for a grand opening on November 28th. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The Thunder Bay District Health Unit this week released a report on radon in homes in Marathon and Oliver Papoonge. And the news isn't good, as sample houses in both municipalities showed higher than average levels of the natural cancer-causing agent. The Oliver Papoonge numbers are particularly shocking. Radon levels were monitored in 188 homes in the rural municipality, and a staggering 65% showed excess levels of the toxic gas. That's more than 13 times the provincial average. Marathon also exceeded the average, with 17% of 110 homes tested there deemed unsafe. Radon tends to be present in rural homes with cracks in the foundation. Epidemiologist Erica Savula strongly urges people to get them checked.
I do want people in all of your Papoons to know that there's a good probability you're living in a house with high radon, and you should test. And if you do test and have those high levels, take any mitigation you can.
It causes a significant portion of lung cancer in Canada, and so it is really important. Just get the test kit, put it in your home, forget about it for 90 days, mail it in, and then when you get your results, you'll figure out if you need next steps or not.
Thunder Bay and Oliver Papoonge residents can attend free radon information workshops at the Waverley Library on November 19th and the Murillo Library on the 21st. Officials with the Northwestern Health Unit say a vaccine shortage in the region isn't cause for concern. Infectious diseases manager Donna Stanley says several lots of vaccines for rabies and hepatitis A and B were deemed by the manufacturers as substandard. The health unit does have enough stock to deal with emergencies, but not to administer preventative vaccines for work and travel. Residents who need the vaccine for non-emergencies should contact travel health clinics in either Winnipeg or Thunder Bay, which may have had stock prior to the shortage.
The thing we're seeing around here is travelers, so people often get hepatitis A and B for travel, but sometimes people also get rabies if they're going to countries with a lot of rabies. So what we're saying is there's behavioral things that people can do, and those really are the mainstay of prevention. The vaccine is great and we want to promote it, but people can also do things like water precautions when they're traveling to avoid hepatitis A, just for example.
Stanley says the shortages are expected to be resolved by the new year. A justice of the peace in Kenora has chosen to retire at the end of the year rather than face an inquiry. The move comes after a controversy over racist remarks made at the Kenora courthouse in 2017. The incident took place at a bail court hearing. During a discussion with Shanna McDonough, a lawyer of Micmac origin, Justice of the Peace Robert McNally remarked, "Nobody knows who Benny Hill is," referring to the British comedian. McDonough replied she knew who Benny Hill was, to which McNally responded, "Your ancestors probably scalped him or something." The issue was brought to Ontario's Justices of the Peace Review Council by Anishinaabe Legal Services and Grand Council Treaty No. 3. They stated that McNally used obnoxious and racist language against an Indigenous female lawyer that was a direct insult to her, the Micmac, and Indigenous persons in general. The council was scheduled to hold a hearing in January, but after McNally announced his retirement, that hearing has been cancelled. An area healthcare executive has been named to the Premier's Council, tasked with ending hallway medicine in Ontario. David Murray is part of a group of 11 people who will advise Doug Ford on possible emergency room improvements to stop patients from ending up on stretchers in hallways while waiting to see a doctor. Murray currently serves as Executive Director of the Northwest Health Alliance, as well as CEO of the Nipigon Hospital. He's also a member of the Senior Leadership Council at Thunder Bay's Regional Health Sciences Centre. He says he understands the capacity issues facing the region's hospitals and long-term care facilities. Murray notes that Thunder Bay, as the hub of the Northwest, faces many challenges, including capacity constraints and inadequate transportation for out-of-town patients.
We have to make sure that there's adequate number of long-term care beds in this region. We also have to make sure that there's some capacity built in to manage the surges that happen every year during flu season. And also we have to make sure that we have the right community programs to make sure that we have a place to send people instead of to a hospital bed.
Murray says he's honored to receive the invitation and will work to ensure the interests of the Northwest are heard. The Premier's Council will gather monthly to discuss ways to address health care issues of the province. A member of Doug Ford's cabinet was in Thunder Bay Tuesday. Marilee Fullerton, the Minister of Training, Colleges and Universities, visited the Oshkosh-Wenjack Education Institute and announced a funding increase for next year. Fullerton spoke with officials at the Indigenous Learning Centre to find out more about the organization. Staff and students showed how they focus their training to help people from remote First Nations across the north. Some area employers were there as well to talk about their efforts to include more students from the programs offered by Oshki Wenjack. Fullerton says she strongly believes in investing in trades and training programs.
It's their full potential. There's enormous potential in the trades, and the education programs that are going on here are very, very important. So we want to announce that $2.1 million is being allotted.
We were very pleased that she was here. We were pleased to know that we were able to, that she was able to hear from our students and our partners within the various employment sectors, and to show her, about our innovative approaches.
That $2.1 million represents a 20% increase over last year's funding. After the break, a staple of print media here in the Northwest prints its last issue. A long-running small-town newspaper in the Northwest has been shut down for good after failing health led to the passing of its longtime writer and publisher. In 1971, Dennis Smick created the Ignace Driftwood, and for almost 5 decades it provided local news coverage to residents. The paper was published each week from Smick's home in Ignace. The October 31st issue included a municipal election wrap, along with this announcement from Smick on the editorial page, stating that it was the final regular issue of the Driftwood, as he just couldn't produce it anymore. He thanked readers for their support over the years. Smick then passed away Tuesday after a lengthy illness. Outgoing Mayor Lee Kennard and Mayor-elect Donald Cunningham say Smick and the Driftwood were staples of the community.
It's a very sad day to lose your local newspaper. It has been here since I came here in 1978, and I remember his paper from back then, and he always had a little piece of driftwood in there somewhere, and you had sort of a contest to find it, and I never forget that.
He's an important part of this community, and we are, our hearts are with him. As far as the paper, yes, I mean, it is important. I mean, hopefully, we've been fortunate to have it all these years, and perhaps
someone may take it up, I don't know, but it'd be nice. But you know, going forward, there's another opportunity for somebody.
One final obituary edition of The Driftwood is set to be printed. A feature film produced here in the region made its debut at Thunder Bay's Silver City Movie Theatre Thursday evening, and there was a full crowd in attendance for both screenings of Angelique's Isle. The film was shot at several locations, including Fort William Historical Park, the Fort William First Nation, and in Terrace Bay. Set in 1845, the story follows a young Anishinaabe woman forced to survive on a deserted island with her Métis husband after being betrayed by a corrupt copper hunter. Co-director Michelle DeRosier says while there were challenges shooting the film here, she's grateful for all the help from those in the region, and she was very happy to see 2 sellouts for the film's premiere.
It's always really special when you get to screen your film in your own community. And I mean, I'm from Eagle Lake First Nation originally, but I've lived here for 30 years. And I love this community and I love the people here. And we have tons of cast and crew that are from here and that helped to make this happen. So it's, you know, it's pretty special.
This film is really, it's a pan-northern story. It was put together by producers from Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, and North Bay, all working together. So unlike any other feature film in history, this is the first time a pan-Northern Ontario feature film production has ever happened. And it's based on a novella that was written right here in Thunder Bay.
Clement says while this is the Thunder Bay premiere of the film, Angelique's Isle has already been seen by audiences at several film festivals and will be premiered in Los Angeles next week. And that'll do it for this edition of Northwest News Week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in next time.